David? What time did you say you want tomorrow? 2:30? 2:30. Thank you.
So, I'm going to call this meeting to order. So, Chairman, you pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Let's have roll call on this.
Mayor Bachman?
Here.
Trustee Bear?
Here.
Trustee Benninger? Trustee Newsom? Trustee Tyson? Here. Trustee Johnson?
Here.
Trustee Matt?
Here. Okay, we have a forum and can continue. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
And I'm asking everyone, please use your mics because the quality on the recordings that go out on the internet aren't really great if we don't use our mics.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Opposed? Opposed? All right, that motion carries. Okay, next thing on the agenda is the announcements. I do have an exciting announcement. So it turns out that the Christmas tree for the White House is being cut from the Gunnison and Compromise forest. And actually that tree will be cut in the forest above Montrose. And it will be making its way from Montrose to Washington, D.C. via Paonia. They will be stopping here with the Christmas tree on the 11th of November. No, I'm sorry, November 12th in the morning. We're still trying to figure out where the tree's going to land because it's a very long semi. And so depending on even getting to town, it's getting them out of town, which could be an issue. So we're working on that. But we're going to have a celebration. If we can get them on the end, we're going to close down the block to go in and invite the school kids and anyone who wants to come. We need 10,000 ornaments. So in Boulder, letting them the ornaments, they're going to need a test call out, but it would be nice to have a nice chunk of ornaments from the town of Paonia. And then it's going to end up on the west lawn of the White House and will be lit on December 7th. So it's nice to have some visitors for a change. Alright, any other announcements? Alright, seeing none. Let's move on to recognition of visitors and guests. And first thing is our Shop Safe, Shop Local salute. And we have two people that we're honoring tonight, or two businesses we're honoring tonight. And the first one is SK Lights.
Great, you do this one off.
Scott did a really good job of keeping my space.
Thank you.
So I suppose you have a friend to shop and having people wear masks and doing a good job. All right, thank you.
We don't shake hands.
No,
Okay. Well, thank you.
thank you, Scott. And the next one is High Country Printing and Graphics. Again, these are some of the first people who stepped up to the plate to take care of things and make sure that we were safe. Were these two wonderful people. And so here is your little recognition. It's been wonderful. Mary, can you hold it up? Oh, turn it around. Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you all so much. The community, be safe if the businesses in the community don't step up, and you guys have. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next is visitors and guests. I'd like to inform everyone that I'm reinstating protocols that I have let lapse during my mayoral term. So, back to the way it was. You are welcome to speak on any subject that is not on the agenda during this period of time. You can speak for 5 minutes maximum, but you can only speak once. You can ask questions, but we're not going to answer the questions, and they will either be addressed personally at a later date or in a section of the town administrative report that will follow up on the issues. All right. That being said, is there anybody who would like to speak on a subject that is not on the agenda? Yes. Suzanne, name and address, please.
Where do I stand? On mic?
No, we don't have a mic, so just,
Okay.
you better feel that there.
Okay, I just want to know something that I was just kind of noticing again tonight. The time is wrong for the board meeting agenda. It says 5 p.m., not 6:30. But, I'm pretty familiar with these agendas and looking at them. One thing I've noticed is sometimes when you have these work sessions and the title is all kind of jammed together, even though it's highlighted in yellow, for some reason, to me, it's really hard to see that there's a budget work session. And I was just wondering if there was some way to either space it differently or whatever, but it's kind of all crammed up in the top title. And when you're looking at the board out here, it's hard to catch sometimes that there's a separate budget meeting. And then today, especially, it was a little confusing because the times are the same for both of them. So I think the budget work sessions are important, and I'm wondering if there's maybe a separate posting that you might just do for that half-page title or something. And then, Mary, not to, I think you said guests can speak 5 minutes, did you say?
Yes, maximum of 5.
Oh, because then not to, but I just was noticing in this resolution, it says 10 minutes. And I don't know if that's right. 10 minutes is a long time.
10 minutes is a very
But I mean, in the resolution, it's actually listed as 10 minutes, so not to correct you, but I just wanted to point you guys to that.
Okay.
Okay, that's what's been adopted.
That's 10 minutes total for this time period.
So it's not per person, it's 10 minutes.
Oh,
For the visitors.
really? Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you, Suzanne. All right, anyone else want to speak? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the administrator's report. Corinne?
Thank you. Start off with the current Delta County COVID numbers. I received these numbers from the county a little bit earlier this afternoon. They stated that their total count now is up to 172 cases with 140 recovered, 2 loss of life, and a 3rd outbreak location was identified this afternoon. Second, we are finalizing the new website, and we are currently scheduled to go live by the end of the month. We're just working out some of the last bits of the bumps with SIPA. We are tentatively scheduling our water sewer treatment facility field trip for October 9th in the afternoon. We'll determine time certain a little bit closer to the event. I am working with Western Hill Conservation Center regarding the town's participation in a River Park Trails extension. They'll be coming before the board in the near future to discuss that. And we're also collaborating with WSCC and a couple other entities on the prospect of some projects that are needing to be done to facilitate some habitat remediation for a grant that was received by Lone Cabin and Turner Ditch. And so we're participating in that with them as well, and information will be forthcoming. Real quick, the Forest Service will be on site at the end of the week for a risk assessment and the right-of-way tree inventory. And I also have a meeting with the tree board scheduled towards the end of the week to discuss with them how we'll implement that inventory and assessment in future evaluations and dealings with trees moving forward. And the last item that I did want to discuss is, you might notice again, the room's configured a little bit different today. I keep trying to consolidate and get us a little bit closer to the way that it used to be set up. That's the reason that you're having a lot of the issues with the mics. They have done an extension on the antennas, basically the bulbs in the ceiling over here, but because we're so spread out, that's why they tend to cut in and out and don't pick up. So the best solution really is going to be working back toward the configuration that we had previously, which is 2 trustees per table. And so I really was looking for direction from the board on their comfort level with mats and proper sanitation to be 2 trustees per table, or would we rather prefer to continue as we're going and just deal with some of the technical issues with sound quality?
So thoughts from the board on the seating arrangement? Yeah, Michelle?
I wonder if we had or could solicit any feedback from the public on how bad the videos are. I feel like having attended the meeting, I understand what happens when I watch the YouTube video, but I don't know if that's true for people who are watching it for the first time that way.
The feedback I've gotten from attendees as well as Bo, who was attending via Zoom the last meeting, is that it's nearly impossible to understand and you have to go back and listen multiple times, in order to, there you go, in order to understand what's being said. The masks do make it tricky though.
Dave?
Personally, I prefer the social distancing and CDC guidelines.
Other comments?
I would echo Dave's comments.
Okay, so we have 2 people saying social distancing. Do we have, what do the rest of the board think?
Have we actually measured the distance between the trustees as we're seated now? Is it possible that we could scoot in a little bit closer and still meet that 6-foot requirement?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, I think all the mics are working but mine. So, it seems like whatever they've done probably is good. Maybe there's just something wrong with the machine. No, I had the power on.
We're going to switch it out and see if it works.
Okay.
We're right under the antenna.
Yeah, we got good ones.
So the other thing is, I mean, we can think about investing some more money to do lapel mics or whatever. But that would be, again, it's another expenditure we need to stick into the budget. So, something to think about. It sounds like at this point, we might try moving the table just a little bit more down this way, but we're going to keep 1 trustee to a table at this point in time.
And we'd like to measure 6 feet because we want to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like that, and we have it, and we don't want to get out as far as Nick.
Measurements coming out, yeah, Tony. And so we'll be going by the guidelines that I think the staff is just too close together.
There's no way to facilitate in this space with staff in attendance, as well as board members and adherers to the guidelines.
So it would mean back to Zoom meetings if we want, and I am not in favor of that is for sure.
The other option would be to excuse staff members from attendance, but that will potentially substantially decrease the availability of information at the meeting.
Yes, Michelle.
Would it be possible for some of the staff members to attend from the conference room so that everyone can spread out a little bit? They could watch YouTube from there and come in only as needed to answer questions or to provide reports.
I suppose we would just need to call call them in. I don't believe that they would necessarily be able to hear and know when to come in based on the live feed.
Well, we're going to start with what's here at the beginning of the meeting, so staff members can do what Michelle suggested, be in the conference room, and when they come in, maybe excuse that, because that they don't need to stay for the rest of the meeting. And I don't like the idea of, oh, well, staff, you don't have to have a social distance, but we as the trustees do, I don't like that culture. I like the culture where we're all trying to honor those guidelines. And so, if there's a way to be able to do that, like in the case of Sandy, for the budget stuff, that's really clear when we can find that, she comes in there, but does she have to stay for the whole meeting? Those are just some thoughts.
Well, there is the issue of time to time. For example, we'll be discussing something like what's on the agenda this evening about both water system upgrades, where Travis needs to be here. And again and again, we get questions for Cindy, you know, is that within the budget? And then Cindy has to look at it and say yes or no or whatever. So, you know, it's not quite as easy as dismissing them after there were points at the beginning of the meeting. Tends to be a little more complex than that.
And what I would add, so it's not, I don't want to be disingenuous in any way, is that I completely we do our very best to adhere to the guidelines and to have that social distancing, but the fact of the matter is that the department heads and the administration that are sitting right here work in close proximity with each other every day, all day. So, in and out of that 6 feet social distancing, exposure in the evening in the meeting, I wouldn't necessarily think that it would be an increased risk in comparison to our exposure day in and day out, 5 days a week.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments? All right. Yes. Suzanne?
So I'm curious, is the social distancing when you're not wearing a mask, or is it required along with wearing a mask? Is the 6 foot spacing to keep people from spraying on each other, or is it required, are we following more of the guidelines than we need to? That's just a question I'm asking because I'm a little ignorant to that. And then another question is, are you still getting pandemic relief funds? Is the town, can you still apply for things? Okay, what about these speaking masks? Isn't there a type of mask that's easier to talk through? I've heard about some stuff like that on NPR. So maybe if there's, a little investigation into there, you can roll it over to the pandemic relief. If the microphones are a problem, is there a way that the pandemic relief can help with that? Rather than taking it out of just a regular, as a big budget expense. So I'm just wondering if you can maximize some of the relief funds to solve some of the problems that we're currently having. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Those are good points that we should investigate. Okay, are there any other questions for Corinne about what she has reported on? Yes. Please stand up and state your name. Thank you.
Tom Marco, I was wondering if you knew the location of the additional outbreak from Delta Times.
Yes, the information I was provided was that it was the Blue Creek food.
It was what?
Blue Creek food.
Blue Creek Foods?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Nothing else? Then let's move on to Public Works.
Hi. Our Paonia Ditch project road crossing started today. Then they got rained out, but I'm not complaining because we need to hurry. Our paving is almost complete. We just have a few roads to fill in so there's not a drop off. Turned out really nice. Got a little bit more than I was expecting to, so that helped out a lot. We did some out on Sammy Way in the back spots. Our watering is about done for the year. They turned out the ditches. Our water treatment plant, we're not spilling any water, but we're maintaining levels in our tank. So I'm really happy about that. We'll drop about a foot during the day, during heavy usage, and then we'll regain it in the evening. We do still have one spring line to get repaired this year, and 2 more street projects to complete this year. Hopefully we'll get those done within the next month. And then we will be scheduling with the school to install a new meter at the school. We finally received that. Then we do have spring, or I guess it'll be fall cleanup now, scheduled for the 14th, the week of the 14th of September. We'll have 2 roll-offs at the town park where they usually set, and then we'll run the trash every day, picking up regular trash that people don't, well, not regular trash, but extra trash that people don't want to haul down through the park. And then that's all I've got, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay, questions for Travis?
On the paving project, did the county generate so much asphalt, a little more than you anticipated?
Yes, sir.
So how much is that asphalt going to cost us?
That asphalt costs us about $550 a load.
Okay. And you're going to do more? I wasn't aware we were doing Samuel Way Road.
We just did some spot sections on Samuel Way where it was really, where we had really big problems with water.
Okay, and then has the meter for the high school arrived yet?
Yes, I'm working with the school to schedule that.
Okay, that's all.
Karen? Do you have an update on SCADA?
I don't have an update on the SCADA. Last I talked with Chris, they were still programming all the computers and stuff.
Other questions for Travis? Okay, seeing none, anything from the public? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Corinne.
Sorry, I'm just going to add a little bit to his report. I just want to make the public aware as well, and we put this out on social media, that while we're doing the fall clean, it is scaled back in comparison to what we've done previous years. Typically, once the roll-offs are full, we have them haul them off and they bring new ones. In order to be really budget conscious this year, we're not having them replace the roll-off dumpsters. And so we are asking people to be aware of that, and smaller items that you can place out next to your regular trash, please do that so that we can come back with a pickup and pick it up separate than the roll-off dumpsters. And we're asking people to please not place any regular household trash in roll-off dumpsters. And then just as just to show the board, to get an idea, what's on the projector right now is the first initial one of the maps that have been provided by SGM for the mapping system. There's a little harder to see on there than it is on my computer. There's a lot of dots on there, but you've got, I'm clicking things, so they're going to start disappearing. The stormwater inlet, stormwater manholes, gravity main. You're starting to see PRD vaults, hydrants. And so this is how it will, in its completed iteration, it'll have all of these layers on it that we'll be able to use moving forward with data. And we also can implement things like the tree inventory that's being provided. That is going to be provided to the town upon completion as an ARC file that we also will be able to layer on, as well as we anticipate being able to layer on things like sidewalk repairs and maintenance that have been done since the sidewalk grant, or since the sidewalk fee was passed by election, so that people can really start to see what has been done and what the plan is moving forward. I just wanted everyone to get an idea of what that looks like.
Thank you, Fred. Dave?
Well, this is a question on the projects. Is there a person in town that's responsible for making sure this is updated?
That Travis and I have both been monitoring, but we also, in regards to the board, SGM will be the primary that will be doing the updates and approval.
All right, other questions? Comments? Okay, I do have one statement. I would like to thank everyone for conserving water voluntarily and helping us get tanks full. And keep up your good efforts because the springs really are not going to increase production until March. So we need to keep our consumption down until we get a good snowpack and get the snow melt again. So thank you everyone for doing your part. All right, next up is the police report. Neil.
We, as the Paonia office, Cedar Ridge and Phelps County Coroner's Office, we applied for the bail grant for the 2021 season. We were awarded $8,800 for the grant. This is a lot less than what we asked for at $25,000, so substantially less than what we were hoping for. Next year, we're going to probably have to come up with other funding to help offset the victims' deficit. So we'll end up getting together with all of the heads and figuring out where the extra money is going to come from, and hopefully be able to budget some for the 2021 year, or else our Victims Advocate program might fall short next year. Data season backwards this year, officers, we've been working on numerous domestic calls along with death investigations and other high crimes that take an officer off the road for longer periods of time. Longer investigations means no times to complete traffic control or other smaller calls. So basically they're out there going from bigger calls to bigger calls. Seems like this year everybody wants to change everything up rather than in the winter or spring. They're all changing it up now. And that's about what I have for now.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Questions for Chief Ferguson? Okay, seeing nothing from the board, from the public. Suzanne?
I just have a question. I've noticed a lot of ATV traffic. It's probably the beginning of hunting season. And some of them seem to be going rather fast. And there are 2 speed limits. One is for ATVs and one is for cars. But if there's no posted speed limit for ATVs, how can you enforce it? Because guests and visitors to the town have no idea of what the speed limit is at that point. There's nothing that says cars are 25. It seems like it's unenforceable if you don't have a sign with the ATV speed limit on there.
That is a downfall and oversight that happened whenever we were making that is a downfall and oversight that happened whenever we were making that law. So that is something that does need to be taken care of, either raising it up to 25 for regular traffic or figuring out something at the beginning of town with sign posting 15 miles an hour for ATVs or something.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, let's move on with our attorney's report. Bill?
Thank you. I'll start on one thing that's not in the written report, and that's the Riverbank subdivision. Corinne and I have a video Zoom conference with the applicant on Thursday. At that point in time, we'll deem if it's substantially complete, and if that's the case, we'll work towards getting it noticed and getting it before planning. With respect to the report itself, on the Paonia Ditch Company, I spoke to a representative today. They indicated that they'll try to get us a response this month. Coupled with that, I've been in contact with Chief Ferguson regarding the use of an animal boarding facility to assist with stray animals. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is we could set a date for the proposed board training.
Let's go ahead and try and set that date. I know you proposed, what did you propose?
Either the 29th or the 6th.
Does the board have
And those were just preliminary thoughts. We can certainly push it out. I was thinking we could maybe do before the board meeting on the 29th as a workshop, if that works.
Okay, guys, what do you think? Well, we don't have to go anywhere to do anything. It's an in-house thing. That's not the field trip. Yes, Michelle.
I apologize, we don't have a meeting on the 29th, we could do it on the 22nd, that would work for me too, if that works for the board prior to the board meeting. We could also do it on the 29th or the 6th, and frankly, we could do it in person or virtual, whatever the board prefers.
Yes, Michelle.
Do we have a budget work session that same day? Would that be a conflict?
We schedule a budget work session for almost every Tuesday through the entire budget season, so if we have the board's discretion if they wish to skip that one and have the attorney's work session instead.
I would personally be in favor of putting it on. I would be in favor of putting it on the other Tuesday when we don't normally have a meeting, so that we can preserve the potential dates for the budget work session.
So that would be the 29th, is what you're saying? Okay. All right, I'm seeing nods around the table. Do you need a motion for this?
That'd be great.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion? Six?
We have a legal workshop at 6 o'clock on May.
Right.
I move that we have a legal workshop at 6 o'clock on Tuesday the 29th.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, discussion? Nope. Yes, Michelle?
In person or virtual?
Board's discretion.
Somebody want to amend the motion? Okay, in person. All right. In person it is. So, we have a motion and a second to have a meeting on Tuesday, September 29th at 6 p.m. for an attorney work session. All in favor? Opposed? Opposed? All right, it passes. We shall be here on the 29th.
There's nothing in the public.
Oh, of course. All right. Anything else? All right, thank you, Bill. Next on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Ross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We reviewed the payroll and disbursements, and as everyone knows, in the workshop on the budget, we spent considerable time preparing that preliminary budget, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Treasurer King? Yes.
Since it's under the Treasurer King's report, what is the count stand on the memorandum on deferring payroll tax obligations?
It's my understanding that the staff will be conducting board meetings to properly auction to employees whether they wish to or not wish to participate.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, anything from the public? Okay, seeing none, let's move on with disbursements. Dave and Karen.
$74,682.90. And we approve expenditures to the Chase credit card of $640.55. We approve the transfer payroll of $20,788.99. We approve payroll taxes of $20,765.30. And we approve a direct deposit of payroll $20,788.99.
Do I have a second? All right, questions from the board? Bill?
I had a couple of questions on the disbursements. The first one was Carlisle Canopy, and the second was Turtle Tracks.
Turtle Tracks is the best for my officers.
I'm sorry, it's what?
The vestiatic area
Okay,
around.
all right. Carla Canopy?
That's not a dessert. It sounds like a dessert, but it's a CDOT Main Street grant, and this is for some of the laminated signs for that grant. There's a second grant on that too, also on CDOT further down, Susie Calvis, did some design work. And this is to help invigorate businesses on Main Street because of the COVID. It helped them open up and close down the streets and signage and barricades, those types of things.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Michelle.
Just a more general question. There are a lot of vendors that we see month over month on the expenses, and I'm wondering if it would be possible to get an annual summary of maybe our top 10 vendors, so we can see the amount spent for the businesses we're doing most work with.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Any others? Seeing none, anything from the public? Okay, seeing none. Then we have a motion and a second for disbursements. All in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. All right, let's move on to staff retirement plan review and update. Who's going to take this one? I don't see any volunteers. Okay, so it looks like we reviewed the retirement plan, and we have, correct me if I'm wrong, we have a new vendor which is going to be slightly less than what we had planned, what we had currently paid. It's still going to pretty much do what the previous plan did, and with just a very small change. Yes, Cindy?
Now I comprehend what you're asking. I apologize.
Still,
Shakespeare has been our representative since we switched to Mutual of Omaha. He has left Mutual of Omaha and is on his own. The plan is still the same. The representative is still the same. He just has other options available to us now that he didn't have before. So, there's another option, that starts with an E, Empower, and he's recommending that we shift more to Empower, because their fee structure will be less expensive for the town and for the employees. But that's the only thing that changes. The plan, everything else is the same. It's just shifting from Mutual of Omaha to Empower, which benefits the town and the employees.
okay, do you have any questions for Cindy? Yes, Bill.
Everybody heard of Mutual of Omaha. I haven't heard of Empower Retirement. Does Empower Retirement have the financial wherewithal to do this? Like Mutual of Omaha would?
It's actually bigger and stronger.
How's the rating?
The rating is above what Mutual of Omaha is, but they're all top-notch companies. I believe they're all A++.
I have a question. First of all, within the line is charging a fee $700 as T-Row price. So is that monthly, weekly, what's that fee?
That's
That's the TPA portion of it.
that TPA charges a fee, their TPA charges a fee. When the TPA charges a fee, I think it's between 500 and 1,500, I think. I'd have to double check that, but, they're the ones that, do the compliance checking and monitor the, funds and, make sure that we're in compliance with all the regulations that are set for retirement funds.
Stands for third party administrative.
So one thing I'm really concerned about is the cost of the employee. I know most of the mutual funds usually knock off a certain percentage on everyone's employment fee. I'm concerned about some local people know about 1%, except for to your price, which is at 0.82%. And we've been to a town for 20 years, there's a lot of money by the time you've left in paying fees. And I don't see that saving the town $50 and penalizing the employees that much is worth it.
I'm gonna have to defer to, Shane. We'll have to get Shane, we'll just have to table this and
Yeah, I think that's
make it.
right. You need to see the actual ratios too.
Make Shane come and be here virtually and answer our questions, because I can't answer them.
Okay, then do we need a motion to table this until the next meeting?
We'll have to move the materials to the next meeting.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No, seeing none, anything from the audience? Yes.
Thomas Marble, just real quick, Bill, to your point, according to Wikipedia, Power Retirement is the second largest retirement plan provider in the United States. They're Colorado based, and they were founded in 2014, combined services, Great West Financial, JP Morgan, JP Putnam Investments, so it's a new company that's several combined. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Opposed? All right, that motion carries. We're tabling this until the next meeting. All right, next thing on the agenda is ordinance 2020-09, creation of a water advisory committee. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the second reading of this. Do we have any comments or questions about this? We did go about it last time. Yes, Tim. Someone had mentioned staggered terms. I didn't see anything about staggered terms in there, unless I missed it. And I also just want to make sure, this 31-35-501, the town has the power to create a board to have complete charge and control of the sewer water and sewer water jointly facilities. I just want to make sure this, well, it's under this statute.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I think it's a very fair point. While it's under this statute, it's by no means giving any sort of, it's an advisory board only, and that's the structure that's in place. So statutorily, you can have boards like this that are regulatory or advisory. This is clearly advisory. And then I guess I do apologize on the staggered terms. That was not picked up. That was not picked up in the motion, but it was discussed. So, and so that's frankly that's my mistake.
Okay, other comments? Okay, anything from the public? Okay, seeing none. Bo, can we pass this with that change to the staggered terms?
I'm definitely comfortable that you could pass this and then give direction that you have staggered terms for the, for
So that should be included in the motion?
Yeah.
All right. Then we have a motion to accept ordinance 2020-09 with the addition of staggered terms.
approve ordinance 2020-09, as presented with the amendment of staggered terms as discussed.
All right, can I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? Anything from the public? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Western Slope Conservation Center draft letter regarding the Sunless Roadless area. Ben, here you are. Would you like to present on this?
Yeah.
Actually, Ben, maybe it might be better if you come to the front of the room,
Sure.
or can, yeah. And if you want to enter your mic.
Thank you.
Is that good? Yep. All right, well, I want to thank you for letting me be here today. I'm here to ask the town to pass a draft letter to the division, the Colorado Division of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety, to uphold the cessation order they have in place right now, asking Mountain Coal Company to stop building their roads and other infrastructure in the area until everything is resolved with the lawsuit and the litigation. So in June, after a federal court issued a decision invalidating the North Fork exception to the Colorado Roads Rule, Mountain Coal Company bulldozed the road in the Sunset Roadless area in violation of that court order. That action led the state of Colorado to issue a cessation order to the mine prohibiting further construction activities in the roadless area. Mountain Coal Company is now requesting the state lift the cessation order and allow them to continue to do well pads and other infrastructure in the area. And we fully expect the mine to operate in compliance with the law and ensure transparency and open channels of communication with our community and protect our public land from climate for future generations. For years, the coal mines have invested in our communities. The Conservation Center has worked closely with the coal mines. We have a plaque in our office from the Office of Surface Mining, signed by Ken Salazar for our work with the coal mines, and specifically West Elk Mine. With their help, just in the last 15 years, have worked together to put over 11,000 acres of private land into conservation easements and conserving our agricultural heritage forever. And have really enjoyed a good partnership with them. However, on this most recent action to bulldoze this mine, or to bulldoze this road in a roadless area, specifically against specifically in opposition of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals ruling, is really just when they bulldoze the road without clear legal authority or any public participation, demonstrates that this particular action is really against the interests of the town and them being a good neighbor to us as a community. So today we're asking the town of Paonia to submit a letter to the state to maintain the cessation order on behalf of the town's residents' interests. In doing so, you'd be joining not only the Munson County Commissioners, but also the town of Carson Butte in their letters as well. Within your packets, I've included a draft letter as well, and also some newspaper clips and WSCC phone letters, so you can see what we wrote, and also the draft letter. So I'm happy to answer any questions as best I can. And yeah.
Questions for them from the board? Dave? Oh, here.
office or experience with it?
Yes, we have two representatives of the Westville coal mine here. Perhaps they'd like to come up and speak on this letter.
You want us at this time?
I'm sorry, what?
You want me to come up now or later?
Yeah, I would think this would be an appropriate time.
Same place?
Yeah, same place.
I'll stand over.
And that's push the power button, there you go.
This, first of all, I want to start out, this roadless area issue related to the West Elk mine goes back. There's the Clinton administration, so it's complicated. It's been litigated extensively, multiple lawsuits. So I think we're going to get into all the details tonight, be beyond the scope of what we have time for, but I will start off at the point that was brought up with the March 3rd decision by the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. There was 3 decisions that come out of that ruling. The first, and it was basically they were suing the U.S. Forest Service saying inadequate NEPA done on the roadless area sunset lease modifications. The first decision that came out was the rule in favor of the government regarding methane flaring that was discussed in the NEPA document. Thereby they validated lease modifications for the Department of Interior and the mine. The second decision that came out related to the North Fork coal mining area exception was they ruled there's inadequate NEPA done on the Pilot Mile area, the North Fork area exception, which is north of the highway, which is an area that Oxbow mining was looking at potentially mining someday. And related to that, the North Fork area exception was invalidated. It's a complicated decision, like I said. The mine had a valid permit, valid lease modifications in hand when the decisions come out. It was our legal opinion that we were grandfathered basically because we had a right of entry, we had the lease modifications, a valid lease from the Bureau of Land Management. We typically build our roads and pads in the summer to stay in compliance with our permit. The decision came out on March 3rd. We didn't start looking to build roads till June. We met with the Forest Service before a road blade touched the ground. They know our intentions. They looked at the precedent set with the decisions and said they're good to go. We also consulted with BLM, let them know our intentions. They didn't object. Part of the objection with this is the decision came out March 2nd, but it hadn't been entered into court by the judge in Denver at that time, so there's a narrative that we were trying to beat the clock. That is not what we were trying to do, or that wasn't the intentions. We believe we had a valid right of entry, and I've got some documents from the Forest Service and the Department of Interior to back that up. Once the road construction was complete, we began working on the pads. It became political. The DRMS issued the cessation order. We stopped work immediately and have not done anything since. We've been in compliance since it was issued. July 23rd, at the Mine Labor Relations Board meeting hearing, where the cessation order was discussed, Jim Stark was the coal director for the CRMS. I'm going to read you a quote. You can also find this on YouTube. It's all recorded. You can look at it. I can send you the link. This is a direct quote from Jim Stark. He says, "It's clear that all the work done before the official vacation of the North Fork exception up until June 15th, that was done legally. That's why we didn't issue a notice of violation on this. If we had part of it done illegally, we would have issued a notice of violation, probably in addition to the cessation order. So we're not disputing the fact that Mr. Drysdale brought up, which was our attorney, that we're not disputing the fact that Mr. Drysdale brought up. We agree with that. We pressed the DOI, Department of Interior, and the Bureau of Land Management to confirm our right of entry and legal status. And I've got a letter here from the Department of the Interior, I'm going to summarize part of it. I've got a copy here that I can provide to the. Okay, it's addressed to our attorney from the Department of the Interior. Let's see, BLM has received your July 28th letter in which Mount Cole LLC requests confirmation of certain rights to access and construct facilities on surfaces of COC 1362 and COC 67232 in light of the vacatur of the North Fork exception of the Colorado Ordinance Rule. And then skip down the next paragraph. MCC's letter requests confirmation of the following subset of rights to access and construct facilities on the surface and the leases related to mining longwall panel LWSS2, which is the next longwall panel that we would move to after the current longwall panel. Number one, Mount Cole may try to maintain, otherwise use temporary road and already completed drill pads on LWSS2 as permitted by PR 15, MR 441, and under leases following the vacatur of the North Fork exception. Mount Cole may construct the remaining drill pads approved in PR 15, MR 441, under the leases following the vacatur of the North Fork exception. This includes tree cutting as needed for drill pads as provided 30 CFR. So Mount Cole may drill approved in PR 15, MR 441, under the lease following the vacatur of the North Fork area exception. Towards the bottom, on August 19, 2020, BLM received a letter from the U.S. Forest Service confirming U.S. Forest Service special stipulations, lease notices, and Colorado Ordinance Rule do not prohibit MCC from traveling on, maintaining, or using existing roads, nor do they prohibit construction and use of drill pads for LWSS2, nor do they prohibit tree cutting, drilling, or methane demolition boreholes. And it provided with a letter from the Forest Service and the BLM. Clarify as well, we're not asking to do any more road work on panels 3 and 4, just to finish the construction and work we need on panel 2. We're going to wait to see what the judge decides on 3 and 4. There was some contention about our water quality permits. The mine maintains an active stormwater permit through the state. We understand that we have to comply with that, part of our CDRMS permit. We're in full compliance. As a matter of fact, we haven't discharged in the last 7 years, even though we have a permit to do so in North Fork. So any assertion that we're violating water standards is unfounded. In conclusion, West Up Mine, Mount Cole Company, we've been a good neighbor. We in fact completed a habitat improvement project in conjunction with Wild Turkey Foundation this last summer, just north of Lake Gage Ranch. You can see off the highway there. Cooperative project. We've gone over 20 years without a notice of violation from the CRMS, and I'd be disappointed to see the city write a letter potentially harming mine or the part of the people that work there.
Okay, questions for either general, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Or west and north, general manager.
West and north? Okay, any questions for Weston or Ben? Board?
It's my understanding for quite some time, the Conservation Center and the mine has been developing a cool working group, and it's disappointing when you see something like this come up without, it seems like there has not been dialogue between the two organizations. Is that accurate? Or?
Prior to this, at one time we had a partnership doing conservation easements, and when ours went through bankruptcy, that was dropped. And we've been working with them in the North Fork Coal Mine Methane Working Group. The mine has, just sidetrack, the mine does have a flare down in place to use on these methane drainage wells, so that methane will be combusted. So there has been dialogue, probably the last 6 months, not as much. We did meet with them after this, and final meeting, if they'll meet with us going forward, as issues come up to prevent any misunderstanding or Another thing that the public's probably not aware of is the mine maintains a $15 million bond with the state. The state regularly checks that to see if the mine are full pack of bags and let there's a $15 million bond in place to clean up and to reclaim all the facilities on the mountain and at the mine site. That's maintained, it's checked on an annual basis with the state. And we would like to come do, we need to do a better job of communicating with the city as well, letting know what our plans are and what the status of the plans are that going forward.
And last comment, if you can explain to all of us about the purpose of the holes, why those holes are being drilled, mine safety, those types of things.
Okay, this natural deposit is sedimentary in nature, so you've got coal, you've also got methane gas that's trapped from the last 30 million years. As we mine that, the rock gets fractured, the coal is mined, it releases that methane gas, which everybody's heard of coal mine disaster, where that methane combusts, ignites. It's very dangerous if it gets to certain levels. To maintain those levels, the mines in the valley have to go in and drill holes so that we can pull some of that methane away from the active working area where the miners are mining the coal. There's strict NSHA regulations. We've got an intricate atmospheric monitoring system underground that measures the methane, make sure we're in compliance and safe levels for the miners. And actually, as we move from the deposit, we've encountered less methane, so we discharge 70% less than we did, say, 6 or 8 years ago. So we've got a lot less methane than we used to discharge. So that's the primary reason for those holes. We commend the drilling in the summer. They'll be used for, some of them are used never at all, depending on methane levels. If it's not high, we don't use them. And then they're temporary. We reclaim them shortly thereafter. We have an ongoing reclamation process, and we've invited the Conservation Center to come inspect that with the state. We come back, topsoil is saved off these areas, the subsoil is put back, the topsoil is put back. We have a special mountain seed mix that the state dictates. It's very expensive when you see people out of tennis rackets gathering seed. That's where we're the ones buying that. So yeah, the methane drainage wells, they're intricate to save mining the deposit and keep the miners safe. So part of that reclamation process, we reclaim as we go. A lot of our countries pick oak brush. We have to actually put electric fence up to keep cows out and elk out, because that's where they want to go, that's where the new grass is. So that's basically a nutshell of what that activity is about.
Jeremy?
Like you mentioned temporary roads and everything. I spent a lot of time just Googling, reading as much as I could, and the more I learned, the more I realized this is really complicated. But you mentioned temporary roads. Is this section of road considered temporary? I've never seen the word temporary with it. Is it going to be permanent, or is it part of that cleanup?
It's temporary. It will likely be in place, depends on how quickly we get through it. It may be reclaimed next summer. We're reclaiming roads this year. This summer we reclaimed roads that we used a year or two ago. And we try to keep that product so we don't have a big inventory of area open. Part of that seed mix, we get inspected if we have weeds that show up. Obviously it is dirt soil, we have to maintain the weeds so there's not a weed infestation. Part of that $15 million bond is a 10-year process. Once we get it back to original contour, get it reseeded, there's stages you can go through. There's 3 stages to bond release, depending on the amount of vegetation. To get to that full release, it takes at least 10 years. That last year, a couple of years, we bring in botanists, actually, that set up a grid. And they come in with scissors and Ziploc bags, and they count, and it costs a lot of money. It's $50,000, $60,000 to have them come in. They count the actual, what plant life there is. If you have too many weeds, you get kicked out. If it's not diverse enough, you get kicked out. You don't start over, you have to keep maintaining that reclaimed area until you get the complete required reclamation done.
Yes?
Is it your belief that the Forest Service and the BLM have jurisdiction over the federal court?
No, I mean,
I'm just saying the federal court invalidated the North Fork exception.
it's our belief that prior to that being validated, we had a valid lease modification and a valid permit with the state. It's our belief that if the federal court wanted to invalidate the lease modifications, they wouldn't have ruled in favor on the first point I brought up. There would be no point to say, yes, okay, you had valid analysis on methane flaring, oh, by the way, you shouldn't have the lease mod. So, part of the Mineral Leasing Act, once you have a valid lease, and it's in the BLM letter, once you have a valid mineral holding, you have a right of entry, and you're required maximum economic recovery by the Department of the Interior of that resource. You can't leave behind coal that they say that we could mine because it's not economical, or just because we don't want to mine it. We actually have to recover that, or we have to pay those royalties to the Department of the Interior.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Ben, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to make a couple of comments. The first was,
I'm not a lawyer or a litigant in this process, so I can't really speak to the legalities of it. But I do want to say, I do have one letter from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Is August 6, 2020. That just is, shows that there were, when we're talking about the stormwater permit, that there was not an active stormwater permit for the section of road that was built at that time. So in fact, the permits, not all the permits were in place that were needed in order to blow this road. And then Tammy, to your point, as far as temporary roads, while you can go through and reclaim a road, quote unquote reclaim a road in a year, I would ask any one of you to go out and walk any of these roads a year after they've been reclaimed, and the trees and the road and the wildlife habitat that was there pre-road is not the same as what is there after the road, that the wildlife habitat is fragmented, that this area itself was incredibly wild and now has a road through it. And Nick, just to tie that back into your question, despite if we're talking about the Pilot Knob Robles area or the Sunset Robles area, the North Fork exception was vacated by the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, and we just asked that the mine honors that until everything is worked out. And again, I'm not a litigant in the process, so I don't have any more comments on that specific process, but just want to see that everything is squared away on all levels prior to continued work that happens. And then Dave, to your point on the coal mine methane working group, we have enjoyed working with the mine in general on working on flaring units and managing and mitigating methane emissions that come from the mine, and have enjoyed and continue to enjoy that partnership and that working relationship. But I do want to read a quote from the Gunnison County Commissioner's letter that they submitted on July 13, 2020. While the Board of County Commissioners has regulated and generally been supportive for many years of legal mineral extraction and oil and gas operation on federal lands in the North Fork of the Board of County Commissioners also understands that there is further and ongoing litigation in the United States District Court for the District of Colorado on this matter. The Board of Colorado Commissioners respectfully request that DRMS keep the cessation order in place unless or until the disturbed area is reclaimed. The federal court determines that the work is authorized in the Sunset Robles area and Mountain Coal has obtained a legal right of entry consistent with all applicable regulatory requirements. The Gunnison County Commissioners also sit on the coal mine, working group and actively work on that issue. So, it's not, again, as far as the whole mine and working together on flaring methane and protecting our environment, we enjoy a working relationship, but this particular act of bulldozing the road into this wild area, seemingly against the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, which will now be changed for the significant future, if not forever, is just a little bit beyond what we could stand for. So that's why we're here asking the town for a draft letter and hope that we see that from the town.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? All right, seeing none, is there people from the public who would like to speak on this issue? Okay. Go ahead, state your name.
I'm Eva Kellogg, 218 Minnesota Avenue in Paonia, and I'm concerned that West Elk would go against a judicial ruling like this and perform an illegal act and damage the wild area like this. And I think that I would like my town to stand up and write a letter and express concern about this and support for the letter that Conservation Center has offered.
Thank you.
Peter Van Winkle, resident here in Paonia. So there's lots of things that I want that I feel I'm entitled to, that when I don't get them, I want to go get them, but I can't because I can't have them, whatever it's been decided. This is an obvious and recorded breaking of the law by a supposed good neighbor, and I know a lot of people that work in that mine, they're friends of mine, and I appreciate their contributions to the community. But I'm not talking to the mine, I'm speaking to the board, and I feel that if we just turn around and say, well, that's true, take their word for it, then it just shows that I agree with Ben, it's a bridge too far. Being a good neighbor would mean that you would not break the law and then turn around and say, like for example, they're saying these are pre-existing roads. No, they're not pre-existing, they're illegal roads now. And so you can't call them pre-existing in the continuation of the applications. And it just shows to me that there's some behavior that is just this battle of attrition along the way. And I think the buck needs to stop with the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak? Yes.
I'm Susan Pryor, 718 First Street, and I just want to support this request for the town of Paonia to write a letter and support this effort to make sure that nothing is done until the court has cleared and allowed the coal company to move forward. This is a beautiful area. We went there a couple of months ago, and it is exceptional. If you haven't seen it, it needs to be protected.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Matt Springer, resident of Paonia. Just briefly, I would like to voice my support for the Western Slope Conservation Center's request.
Thank you. Yes.
Elizabeth Lindgren. I'm also a resident of Paonia. Live on Poplar Street, and I believe that the mine did what they thought was right, and I would not agree with what.
Okay. I'm sorry. Maybe it's not the afternoon, but I missed the last part of your comment, so.
Sorry about that.
I know it's hard. It's really hard.
I would not agree with the letter. I support them both.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. Yes, Bill?
Well, Well, I think our position, at least my position tonight is, I'm not going to sit and judge West Elk's actions, it's not my place to do that. We have state agencies, federal agencies, and court systems that do that. What is before us tonight is a letter condemning the mine, and basically, in my opinion, kicking dirt in our neighbor's face. A neighbor that we've worked with for many years, and has done a lot of good in this valley. And to have a neighbor that is suffering through the court system right now, and for us to essentially pile on, I think is doing an injustice to that fellow. I think that our best action tonight is to take no action. Obviously, we're not going to be the ones that judge and the jury is going to arbitrate this case. We're just going to show that hey, we're going to kick dirt in your face when you're down.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. And I did receive, okay.
My name is John Bowles. I've lived in this town all my life, and I'm here to support the mine. I do believe that the actions taken were legal. It is a tangled mess, and we can do a better job communicating with people. But it is important to us, and to all of us in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. I did receive an email from May Trumbull, who was not able to attend the meeting tonight. She said, I respectfully submit and support 100% the cessation order on the Sunset Road this area. Any request from Mountain Coal and any other entities to do any additions to or on the road that was illegally built should be denied. I also request the town condemn the letter in support of holding firm the cessation order and upholding the law. Any support that allows work in that area sends the wrong message and also will contaminate more of that area that was supposed to be untouched, unmarked, and wild. Any other comments? Wait, okay.
I don't want to put Chris on the spot, but we're going to talk a little bit about conservation centers, policy with the Rivers area and what's happened over the years with it, because I believe the conservation center supported the Rivers area exception.
I cannot speak to our history of. My name is Chris Caskey, I'm a Paonia resident. I am the chairperson of the board for the Conservation Center, and I've been the primary participant in the North Fork Coal Mine Methane Working Group. So I have been on the board for about 4 years, and I can't speak to our policies prior to that. I can say that we have always seen, one, what Ben mentioned, that the Mountain Coal Company has done great things for conservation in the valley is absolutely true. The North Fork Coal Mine Methane Working Group was very powerful in getting some climate action done. The flare that went in on Valley's mine that they collaborated with Oxbow with is a great benefit to the atmosphere. The flare that the West Elk mine is putting in is going to be a great benefit to the atmosphere. And I think at one of the last meetings, which 2 or 3 meetings back was over a year ago, I don't even remember if I said it to John or Weston, but hey, I know you guys are in some lawsuits about this, and if I can provide political cover for you guys getting a flare up into that area, I'd be willing to do that. And doing the opposite of that now, because the road building at the time of the 10th Circuit ruling really switched us as a group from a collaborative stance to a watchdog stance, which is a difficult switch to make, and we don't do it lightly. So I can't speak to our position in years past, but what we've seen is we've always felt that the diffuse damage of climate change was less bad than the acute damage to this community if we lose some of our few good jobs. So we've always said we can be supportive of actions that are contrary to conservation, right? Coal and roads in roadless areas are antithetical to conservation values, but we can stand by because those are generally diffuse harms, and we have an acute benefit of having a partner in the valley and an economic driver. So but when there is an acute harm, such as a road in a roadless area of questionable legality, that is why we changed from collaborative to watchdog, and I do hope that we can go back to collaborative after this. So that was more than your question, but there you have it.
Okay, I think Thomas, you wanted to speak?
Yes, if I can.
Yes.
Okay. Thomas Markle, 302 2nd Street. I think the action of the board is not going to be representative of everybody in the split community. But I think the function of a letter would be to maintain some semblance of communication between the entities of town and the Coal Mine and Western Coal Conservation Center. If you can imagine a world where there are no regulations, there are no courts, there are, it's just these guys out there doing whatever they want, what does the landscape look like then? And it seems like that's kind of maybe not on the historical side, but that's what they're acting upon us. Well, we'll do what we want and get sued and sort it out later. And if that's the kind of behavior that we're okay with, then we don't have to say anything. If we want our neighbors to follow the law, follow the rules that we've all put in place, maybe we should tell them they should do that with a letter or whatever other action is necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
just one clarification is, when this road keeps being referred to as an unlawful or illegal road, we've got the state coal program director confirming that it's legal. We've got a letter there from the U.S. Forest Service saying it's legal, and the Department of Interior. Those are the oversight groups for the mine. I don't know who else we could get a letter from to show to you tonight that it is legal. I would at least ask you to review the material before the decision is made to write a letter or not. And if you ever want to get into details on the Colorado roadless rule and the saga behind that, I'd be happy to come do a presentation.
thank you. You have one more?
Matt, I'm a Lake County resident, I'm in support of the coal mine. Been a good neighbor to this town for a long time. In fact, all three of them. I hate to see the other two shut down. Supports this valley big time. And they were legal at the time.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Melissa Brady, I'm a Paonia, and I feel like by the town writing a letter to the mine, you are simply asking for a pause, to honor a pause in the activity because of the dispute. And why would we not want to protect our land? And yes, the mine brings lots of jobs, and that's good. But why not pause? Why not ask them to honor what the court, that we all say we're the courts, the judicial, the system has asked to pause. So I disagree with kicking dirt in the face. I feel like it's simply a request to honor our water, our food, our land, people, and the court.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, yes, more thing.
To clarify, there are 4 panels in the Sunset Roadless area. We're currently mining panel 1. Panel 2 is where we built the road, which is the next panel we'll move to next spring. To do the work and move to there next spring, we have to do the work this summer that we started. If we don't get it done, we don't move to the next longwall panel, and 300 coal miners might be out of work. We agreed to the pause, we agreed not to work on panels 3 and 4. The only thing we're asking the state to do on the cessation order is to allow the work on panel 2. We agreed to let the courts resolve panels 3 and 4. It is only the activity on panel 2 that we're asking for the cessation order to be modified to allow.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Yes.
Hi, Melanie Feynman, 5 Pan American Avenue. Thank you so much for taking the time today to present and to tell your side of it, because I didn't know all those details. And thank you for taking the time to encourage the board to write a letter. And I just would like to say I am in support of the board writing a letter. And I think from what I've gathered, this is a disputed subject, clearly, but a federal judge ruled that you were not allowed to build this road into this area, and you ignored that and you continue to plow forward. A federal judge ruled, the 10th district. It's not okay. Now that you started and you can see it from the sky, the airplanes flew over and took photos of it, and it's never going to be the same. But I'm grateful that you're going to try to attempt to reclaim the area and put the seeds in. It's not going to be the same. So it's just not okay. And while I want to support the mine and giving jobs to the community and being a community player, and there's legacy here of coal mining in this town, and I recognize that and I honor everyone for their work. But nonetheless, do not think that it's all right to ignore the cessation and to ignore the federal ruling and to literally plow into the forest, into the roadless area. Clearly it's a roadless area as well. It's been designated that by the administration at some point, and I know that there's a lot of depth to the roadless area ruling. And I know that the roadless areas they provide a little bit of leeway towards the coal companies. In fact, I think that maybe the coal companies are allowed to possibly go into the roadless area out here, and there may be some ruling on that as well. But I think that the coal mine is sending a really negative story here. It's bad for your reputation to just ignore what's been ruled upon you and to plow ahead. It makes me lack trust in myself, in Mountain Coal. What else are you doing to plow forward your agenda and your industry? So I stand here as an environmentalist and a conservationist, and that is my position, and I know that I speak for many in the community that are that as well. So I am that voice. And while I have your attention, I just ask please to continue your stewardship for our environment, because we are in a climate crisis, and methane is not helping the cause. So yeah, let's flare more, let's capture more, and I encourage Westville to really step it up as a planetary player here and get more involved to help with our climate crisis that is going on at large for our planet. So I encourage the board, please do write a letter in support of the cessation. That's all we can do right now. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else? What?
Okay, there's a way to get elected office, so these situations come up and you can see both sides of the issue, and that's where I'm at right now. It's very difficult for me to see with a grandfather who was an engineer and a dad who was a are looking and they stand on the shoulders of miners. On the other hand, I know the climate crisis, I know what's going on with the environment, it's a really difficult thing. The main thing I want to see coming out of tonight is more communication between the West Elk Mine and the Long River groups and more cooperation. Personally, I'm not in favor of writing a letter.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Jim.
So I consider myself kind of an environmentalist in that since I was a teenager, I don't burn much gas, I don't buy much, I don't travel, I don't fly. I do a lot of things to help the environment, but when I moved here and learned about the coal mines and what good they are, I have really appreciated them being here. And I am not in favor of this letter because I don't know the answers. I don't know all the legalities, but I do know that I value the mines, and there are a lot of ways we can be good to the environment without trying to stop coal mining. And I also understand Western Slope Conservation Center. I've given them money. I've written a lot of articles about them. So I am very torn on this, and I knew this was going to be a really emotional issue for me, but I think at the very least we should hold off on writing the letter until we all know more. I mean, what kind of a timeline are we looking at? How long will we have to put this letter in? I'm probably going to vote against it. Not because I don't believe in saving the environment, but because I do believe in the mines, and I do believe in the goodness that they bring this valley and what great neighbors they've been. I despise fracking, but those mines, I really value those mines. Thank you. Yes, Nick.
Yes, I believe in the mines as well, but I just can't get over the fact that they went against the federal court order and just, bulldoze, a mile-long path into the forest. So I just can't get over that part. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, Michelle.
So I strongly support everything the Western Slope Conservation Center does, including this letter, but I do appreciate that we have representatives from the mine here tonight. I hope that we see representatives from the mine here more often, because it makes for a much better conversation, and with us seeing the nuances of these issues a little bit better, to see here in the community. I think that I also have a problem with the road as it is built. And I don't think that sets the tone of what a good neighbor does in our community. But I think it falls on us as well to be good neighbors to them. And I think part of that is at least taking the time to review the materials we got to us tonight before we make a final decision on the letter. And I will say I'm absolutely leaning in support of this letter, and I don't expect that will change, but I will review the materials presented with an open mind, and I think it's important to see their side of the issue as well, especially as big a mess as this seems to be.
Thank you. Yes, Nick.
Then, is there a timeline for this letter that we would expect us to send in?
I mean, the sooner the better, but I am also, if the board feels like they need more time to review the materials that have been presented tonight, I know that that's important to the board, so I would urge you to do so, and I'm happy to also provide more materials as well. I kept the materials I have in the packet at a pretty high level, again, because I'm not a litigant or a lawyer or, and have been introduced to this issue as everyone else does, but happy to provide more on my side as well. So, yeah.
Okay, are we at the point where we can have a motion here?
I'd like to make a motion that we table this to the next meeting so that the board can read their 200-page legal opinions by the next meeting.
That It is totally related. Okay, so we have a motion to table this to the next meeting. Do I hear a second? Second. Any further discussion?
Mayor, I'm disappointed that we're going to table this motion. I think that the players are here tonight, opinions are set. I know that people would like to do a little bit more research, but, we're not going to change anything by writing a letter other than continue to vilify our neighbors, and I think that we should go ahead and vote on the letter tonight.
Okay. Well, Leah is going to give her opinion. I don't do this always, but these documents come from the U.S. Department of the Interior and the United States Department of Agriculture. And to the best of my knowledge, the federal courts still trump the Department of the Interior. They're the ones who make the final determination on this. And they have said, no, you need to stop. And in my mind, it doesn't matter what the Department of the Interior says until the courts have completely ruled on this. The order is to stop. So, if you wish to read the letter, I strongly encourage, I will give them to Amanda, they will be distributed to the board, and we can discuss it next meeting. So, is there any further discussion on the motion to table this? Okay, seeing no discussion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? I think it's 5-1, so, right? Okay, that motion carries, this will be tabled to the next meeting, Amanda will distribute these in the meantime. Moving on. And again, thank you so much, Leslie, for coming to me. You know the other side very often, and it's really informative when you do. Thank you.
We would like the point to come out.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Next item on the agenda is the payment of both water system operating Travis. Did you have to put us on that?
Sorry to see you again in this context.
Oh, I'm sorry. I checked on my item box too quickly. Sorry. All right. Another letter. All right. County Fund letter to the draft Delta County land use. Okay. After attending the land use meeting last time, after looking at the documents, the land use plan, after taking input from the board and the public, I wrote out a response letter. And I have provided it to the board, and it was in the packet. And I opened it up to the board to make any other responses or changes that you would like to make to that letter. Yes, I just like to say it was nice and done, and I don't know that I would change anything. Okay. Anyone else? Yes,
I would agree with that. You did a great job. Thank you.
anyone else? Yes.
Just as a general comment to the letter, I think your letter said that you want to expand the town's control of power as far as possible. Well, I would ask you, those people that this letter this potentially could affect, who do they vote for? Do they vote for the town of Paonia trustees, or do they vote for the county commissioners? And I think that you're putting those people, if they can't vote for the town of Paonia, then I think you're putting them in limbo, because you're severing their right to be represented by a representative.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Ken?
Already were supposed to plan for a 3-mile radius, and the original map that they brought showed where all the green where we now have influence, and they were moving that in and taking away a lot of our influence. And we may not supply water, we may not access them, but we do want to prevent the county from letting a feedlot go in there or something else. I just want to go back to the green that we had before they started messing around with the map.
And Ken does have a good point, is that our current intergovernmental agreement does basically cover all the places that we currently serve water and sewer to. And then all we're asking is them to put it back.
Well, I just question the fact that who represents, we're asking for control there, yet we're not giving them the right to vote on this council. I have a fundamental problem with that.
Any other comments? All right, anything from the public? Yes.
Just would like to know what was in the letter, because I've read the land use regulations for the county, but I'm wondering what particular you were addressing.
So let's see, if I can summarize it quickly for you, if I can get my computer to scroll. Okay, but we are asking for the decision-making ability in areas surrounding the town of Paonia. The land use plan as it has been written gives us that kind of decision-making ability along Highway 133. But basically takes away that decision-making ability on 2/3 of the town's borders. And they have been zoned according to county ag 5, A20, and agricultural 35. And in the agricultural 35, even with the 1,000-foot setbacks that they have put into the plan, somebody could build a chicken farm 1,000 feet from the borders of the county. So we're just asking for the decision-making ability to say yay or nay to that. And what the county can do is permitted by right, which means they don't have to have any public input, they don't have to have anything, they can just overstand and say, okay. The second point that is in the letter is on marijuana. They have a complete prohibition on marijuana uses. And I'm asking them to reconsider that because cannabis is legal and that it is a profitable farming operation and they are actually disallowing farmers to grow a crop. That especially if our marijuana initiative passes, we could have locally grown organic boutique products provided to our shops, which would give them an edge over other shops. And so they're cutting out small businesses as well as farmers. And then the third point was the right to farm. The state statute says that you cannot, if you put a farm in that is pre-existing and somebody goes next to it, they do not have the right to complain about what's going on in the farm. The county has changed that rule in their land use to say it doesn't matter when the other thing goes in, that it has the same right to farm as an old farm. So, for example, here we go, if somebody goes up there and puts a farm in with a lot of machine running, they have the right to do that no matter what it does to that pre-existing community. And we're just asking them to go back and comply with the state standards. And so that's what the letter says.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, are you ready for a motion on this one?
Let me move to approve the letter that Mayor so eloquently read.
Do you want to hear a second? Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Opposed?
Aye, Dr. Dane.
Okay, that motion carries 5-1. Thank you. I will email that off to the planning commission tonight and at home, and then I will present it in person tomorrow night at the planning commission meeting. All right, now, Travis, you're up on the bill volume system.
I was asked to get some quotes on a new bulk because we're having problems with our old one, we can't get any. readers, and also it keeps breaking down and they won't fix it. So I got 2 quotes. One was retrofitting the existing system, and the other one was a whole new system that has its own building and everything. Tonight, what I'm asking is to do the retrofit system at the existing spot where the system is currently, and it's a new PIM system where everything, you would set it up at the office, your account and everything, and then you'd have a PIN that you would come in, or you would be given, and then you could go and you put your PIN in and how many gallons you want, and it fills it up.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Karen?
Who's doing the retrofitting? Is it the same company that built the old one, or?
No, this is a different company.
So they're not just fixing up the old machine?
No, it's an entire, almost everything will be brand new except for some of the plumbing. The standpipe we'll use the existing standpipe, and meter, it'll come with the new program for the controls.
And will they be responsible for its maintenance?
No, not with the retrofit. They'll guarantee their product for a year, but that, or the switchboards or everything, they'll guarantee it for a year, but any maintenance we'll have to do still.
Yes, Dave.
Well, how much do we keep doing water sales from October's?
I can tell you how since we started metering the bulk fill station, this is not all financial contributions. Remember that the town uses that as well as the fire department. But including all the downtime that we've had at the bulk fill stations this year, there's already been approximately 75,000 gallons of water pulled from that system.
And how much money does that get us? Just trying to be cost benefit here, we're talking about $20,000 spending on this, and I just want to see what's the payback on this thing.
10 years. How much do you have in there? We've had about $4,500 in direct purchases on the cards this year.
About 5 years then maybe.
Any other questions?
Will we make approximately 45, about 5,000 to, this is about $5,000 a year.
Okay, Michelle?
I would say one of the 2 bids included in the packet, was the other one excluded because staff decided that wasn't a feasible option?
We excluded the bid that wasn't budgeted for, and that was an implementation of an entire new bulk fill system, which came in at about $60,000.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, any takes from the public? Okay, seeing none, can we have a motion?
I move that we purchase the bulk water fill station equipment as indicated in the packet.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, motion Michelle?
Sorry, just one more. For our current system, how long was it operational before the card reader started failing?
A little over a year.
Do we have any references for the company that would do the new work that would indicate a lifespan of 5 years or more?
It's the same company that Oshkosh uses for their bulk fill station, and their bulk fill station's been in there right at 12 years.
Okay, thank you.
They did highly recommend, and I would say too, moving to a PIN system is going to alleviate a lot of issues for our water card holders. You would not believe how many times those cards get lost or misplaced, and unfortunately with the system we have, if you don't have your card, we have no way to show how much money you had or reimburse or transfer to another card at all when we did have cards to transfer. So people would lose them and they'd just be gone and somebody else got their water. So this is a better system. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Opposed? None, okay, that motion carries. Let's move on to the waiving of late fees and disconnect charges. Fran?
Thank you. As discussed at the last meeting, I have some concerns as we move forward and try to be very cognizant of people's need in times of, our current times with the pandemic. We've offered a few areas of relief for customers in regards to their utility bills with the town. And as we move through the year, I brought up a few times to the board some concerns about the typical mechanisms the town uses to collect on outstanding debts. And also some concerns that I've started to receive from homeowners and landowners who have pointed out, in no uncertain terms, one specifically said the town isn't the one that's assuming a risk by saving people from their utility bill, because the homeowner is the person then that's responsible if they move out or they don't pay that bill or a lien is filed against their property. So in consideration of both sides, I thought about the options and offerings that the town board had granted previously and came up with, and somewhat of a suggestion on how we may be able to address this, which I included in the packet, along with a summary list of all of the accounts that have any kind of outstanding balance. And if you're looking at the spreadsheet, I included on the bottom of the spreadsheet, highlighted in yellow, the aging report, basically, it's the outstanding balances for where we were at September of last year as a comparison. Because while it's not substantial in comparison to some of the debts and bills and things that you see, it is significantly higher than previous years. And I just want the board to really be aware of that and provide some direction on if they wish to continue and how they wish the town to go about collecting aged debt.
Okay, questions, discussion from the board? Dave?
First of all, I really appreciate the analysis and all the detail that you provided. This is what I really like for a town administrator to do for us to help us in decision making. It was a real eye-opener to see how much people owe us. And something needs to be done because a lot of the utilities we talked about in the budget tonight are really tight. So thank you for that.
Okay, other comments, discussion? Yes, Michelle.
I agree with everything that you said. I just had a question. There's a column labeled the duty landlord, and I'm not sure if that means that it's a rental property or that it's a homeowner or how to interpret that.
Yes, so that would be Cassell. And so in that column where it says is a landlord, that means yes, that's a renter in those properties, while the no's are occupied by a homeowner, or the account has remained in the homeowner's name, but it could be potentially being paid by a tenant.
I've got it backwards, I think. Is the person a landlord? Yes, that means they own the house, or that means they don't own the house.
Landlord, yes, means that the owner has the bill in a tenant's name. Landlord, no, means either it's owner occupied or the owner has chosen to keep the utility bill in their name even though a tenant is occupying the location.
So all of you know there aren't that many rental houses in the field.
That is accurate information as far as we're aware, but no. The unfortunate fact is that if a property owner chooses to keep the utility in their name, we don't have any way to know if it's a renter or the owner that's in the property.
Other questions, concerns, discussion? Yes, Nick?
And to date, we haven't contacted them in any way, no phone call, no letter,
We
nothing.
continue to send out the standard shut-off notices and letters every single month.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
What's our normal cap on delinquencies before we do a shut off at the property or a separately?
Typically, we don't allow you to go beyond 30 days without an arrangement and a set date that you're going to come in. But usually when you get to the point that you're getting a shut-off notice for your second month's bill, you're going to be disconnected. And that was the board direction several years ago, was that we did not go beyond basically 45 days without doing a shut-off.
Okay, thank you.
Well, my questions are pretty well been answered, but, the debt is $16,000. Are a lot of the ones that are late in paying, have they been late in paying in the past? So is it really due to COVID or is it some other reason?
I think you can confer because you do this more than I do now, but the names that tend to, from my experience, the names that tend to be on this list are primarily on the list. There are a few that are not, but...
And any of the payers, the people, they come in and truly express problems with you?
Minimal. And then there's been minimal contact from people, renters or owners stating that they needed their relief.
Okay, Lance? Anything from the audience? Nope. Okay. Even public has nothing to say. Oh my God!
For the spreadsheet, maybe instead of his landlord, you say his rental instead of no.
We should not Cassell.
All right, so would somebody like to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion that we cease doing the waiving the fees from the start of October, and that we direct the town staff to start to attempt to reclaim the money. Their examples are good, and see what you can do.
Is that clear enough for everybody?
If I'm understanding it right, there's a bullet point piece that she's suggesting when they first went down the accounts, they agreed with payment plan, and then second proceed with lien, if they don't do that, and then third, I think, shut off if they're not staying there.
Well, I think first of all, we should stop the program of waiving the fees, okay? And the second one, I would leave it up to Corinne and the staff. We would direct them to recover the money that's been out there. How they do it, I can't say here tonight. I just tell them to direct them to do that. I think that they can figure it out.
It would be substantially the way it's provided to you on the agenda or in the packet.
So, my understanding of the motion is that we discontinue the fees beginning in October, and that the staff work to reclaim the building from the county.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second on the motion? Second. Any more discussion? Yes.
I think it would be really important that you let people know through any means possible that you are stopping that program. There are plenty of people in town that are still out of work because of restaurant jobs, music, whatever, and they deserve to know that before they get their final shut-off notice.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in checklist procedures. Who would like to summarize this one? Dave?
I'll take a shot since I tried to write it up. Basically, I wanted to set a plan for moving forward and making decisions on the streetlights. We have several citizens give us petitions that are signed by their neighbors about getting lights off. And so I wanted to make sure that we're taking the right factors into account as we look at lights shut off and whether there's other options besides just shutting off the light. So that's what this checklist is about. And then, of course, at the bottom, we talked about the decision-making process, and then we have a dark sky person, a town administrator, police chief, public works director, a trustee, work together on trying to make these decisions.
Okay, any questions for Dave? Yes, Nick.
I guess not really a question, but I think we should consider the corner or group of people that would like the light shut off to absorb the cost of doing that.
Okay. Yes, Bill.
Well, I'm afraid that this could turn into be a slippery slope, whereas we get enough people together, get one light turned off, and then pretty quickly have another group that wants their light off. And over time, family would be left with a few of those street lights turned off.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? From the board.
I just want to answer Bill's concern. One thing in the format for decision making was making sure that there's corridors that are safe corridors for people to walk, safe corridors for the kids that are trying to go to school. In the winter, they have to be able to get to the school, the elementary school especially. So those concerns are brought up and don't just shut off every light willy-nilly. If there's a lot of traffic at that light, like someone suggested turning off some lights on 2nd Street. Well, 2nd Street's a pretty meager corridor. And when I was talking to that person there, I was just saying, well, I'm on 3rd Street, that's where the light is. So those are some of the things that we're trying to take into account.
Okay, Nick?
That's what I was going to say. It's not the decision of the people submitting they want their light off. It'll be based on other things. Safety as well as traffic.
Thank you. All right, anything from the public, Sarah?
Hey, forgive if I get a little emotional about this, but it has ruined my sleep for the last 2 months, and I'm a school teacher, and it's bad. And so I think the things that I really feel like need to take into account are lights that were off to begin with. And I really resent the implication that we need to pay to turn it back off when it was already on the list and it was off for 6 years because it was on the list to be off. And so now that it's back on and aimed directly into my bedroom, I see no dark skies. I see the report and I hear every morning about all the planets that I'm supposed to see and the moon, and I cannot see a bloody thing except everything in front of me because that light is so bright and so much. It does not aim at the street, it aims at my house and at my bedroom. So to think that I would pay to turn it back off when it was already off and on the list and off for 6 years is just incredible to me, and I feel like very insensitive of this board to think about. And I also need a timeline. What is the timeline? Because I continue to suffer. Everybody on my block continues to suffer because of this light. And I am going crazy. And I bet you that the value of my home has gone down considerably because there is no dark night. There's no darkness around us. It's like a moon that never ever turns off. And so I'd love to have a timeline. I'd love to have this checklist made public immediately. I'd love to know what 11 people that signed a petition, why we have to now wait further what is the best thing to do? When people have already agreed on my street lot, 11 people, that they never wanted it on in the first place. We never have to have that light turned back on. So I'm just in a quandary, and I need a timeline, obviously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That's what last week does, by the way. Makes me super emotional.
Yes.
I'm Roger, Delta Avenue, and,
Please stand. Please stand.
I could also express the same thing emotionally, but I'm not going to redo it. I think just did because I would do it just as fully all the feelings that she has, because I felt the same impact of the light that has come up on directly across the street from me after being there for 10 years without that light being there at all. And I floods completely through my house, the front of my house, and other unit into my bedroom. So I have to choose to either have the window open when I need the air at night in the summertime, or shut the blinds to keep the light off of my head and not have the air. So just the other night I was talking to Dave because I went around the neighborhood, around all the neighbors directly around my house to present this petition, because I heard that other people were having petitions about lights that suddenly came on. I don't know the reasons why, but if it was DMEA, just blanketing all lights, whether they were on or off or not, or whatnot, but it really does impact a person after you've been so accustomed to the environment of dark yard. And that was the primary reason why I invested in my property, because I walked around the neighborhood many times at night to notice the quality of life there. And so I just want to read this petition to you. It says, we citizens of the town of Paonia residing on Delta Avenue between 3rd and 4th Street petition the town to eliminate the recently illuminated street light located on the east side of Delta Avenue across from 330. Is our determination there is sufficient light on Delta Avenue provided by the 2 street lights installed on Delta at 3rd and 4th. The street light reference detracts from the quality of life from the residents, has a negative impact on our personal privacy and interferes with our view of the night sky. This street light has not been illuminated for the past 10 years plus. It is superfluous and it is an unnecessary expense to the citizens of the entire town. And it's been signed by all the neighbors directly around this light. Just wanted to
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Aaron Watson, Dark Skies Paonia. I just wanted to say with the streetlights, I've gotten a lot of feedback with Dark Skies, and there's been a number of people who are happy with the lights and appreciate them. And those are people who have had the old style lights and have the new ones and like, cool, this isn't a big impact. Then there's just a handful, I think 3 right now, lights that were off before and have been turned on now. And the residents are quite unhappy. And they're very localized. It's not across the board from what I can tell. It's these I think 3 lights at this point that have petitions now, and they were already off before. And I encourage the town to immediately turn those 3 lights off as soon as possible, because it's not just the dark skies, it's also a health concern. We are in the middle of a pandemic where we really do need the healthiest environment we can get. And these lights have been scientifically proven to reduce our immune systems. So to listen to these complaints that are being voiced very loudly, I think is extremely important at this point. And so I strongly encourage that these particular localized lights be turned off immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick?
Thanks for those comments. I believe the street light on Delta is over the railroad tracks, though, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we need to look at these for safety issues, as well as, I understand, the well-being of people, but we have to look at it both sides safety as well.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I was just going to add, I'm a little taken aback, because it was my understanding that part of the reason that we pushed as quickly as we did and wanted to get this checklist on the agenda was because it was the intent, and of course, people wouldn't know this necessarily that were outside of the Dark Skies group and the town as we were discussing it, was that the areas that we received the petitions would be the first ones that we looked at. Those were going to be, as soon as the mechanism for review was approved by the board, then those were going to immediately become the areas of focus that Dark Skies, town administration, were going to look at. And again, I understand. There's one house between me and the street light in town, and there's a noticeable difference at my house as well. But I do also want to reiterate, we've had a little bit of a change in the board, but this was discussed at many meetings before the lights were upgraded. The location of the lights were on a completed list provided by DMEA initially when they presented their plan several years ago on which lights were going to be upgraded, and it was the decision of the board to maintain that list. To be honest, I have never seen a record or know of a record of lights that were shut off purposefully and permanently because they were on a list of lights that were scheduled to be removed and not to be turned back on. There was a lot of information, and while I sat on the board, a lot of conversation about turning off or lowering specific lights to see the impact. And so I think that may be where that came from, and I can see that if there wasn't a significant impact for multiple years, that should be taken into consideration. But I would ask the board, should they approve the mechanism for review, that they allow the town and the other reviewers to quickly take into consideration the checklist, review these lights, starting with the 3 that we received the petitions from, and make that determination. What's included in that checklist is a statement that if there's not a majority consensus, then that immediately comes back to the board, who then makes the decision based on the evaluation of each independent person, whether or not to retain the light, shut the light off, or look at another avenue.
Thank you, Tim? Sarah's comment that the board has decided that people should pay, that's not true. That's the first I've heard of it. So, and I think that is really a slippery slope. I mean, if you make people pay, then people are going to start coming up with money to turn off the lights. So I am very much against that. And what Corinne said, I think we are in a hurry to do this. We're not wasting our time. You can find this list in the town packet, which is on the town website. It's available to everybody.
Well, I looked for it tonight and I didn't see that.
It's when you see the board packet, it says board, what does it say? It's board agendas and meetings and minutes. Just go there and click on the particular date, which would be today. And there's a little thing that says packet, and it has that.
It's not actually up on my phone. I didn't realize when this was on the agenda that there was an actual document.
But I think that Delta light that Roger's talking about, I have walked over there and it's pretty intrusive. I think that would be the first light we should look at. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else on the board? Yes, Michelle.
So I think the checklist is well thought out, a great idea, and it gives us a process to follow for all of these to avoid what Trustee Bear mentioned about potentially turning off all the lights. I don't think that will happen with this checklist, and I think it's a great tool. I do have just a couple of suggestions. I think the terms unique visual barriers throughout the school and high-volume corridor are subject to a lot of interpretation, and so I'd like to see those better defined on the checklist. Other than that, I think it's great.
Okay, any other board members? Yes, Tim.
Just to respond to that, don't we have to say routes to school, routes, designated routes?
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, Sarah, please stand, please.
I think it's super important that you look at them at night, because the particular light on 2nd and Clark is not aimed at the street. It is aimed at Clark Street at my house. There's hardly any on 2nd Street that is illuminated. It's really illuminating Clark and my house, so that's why it's important not just to look at locations, but to look at them at night. Thanks.
Thank you. Roger?
Well, first of all, I think that it has been an improvement in the quality of the light in general with the LEDs that have been placed in town, because I've really looked at the lights a lot higher. So I'd say it's an improvement, and I think that it's great that you're looking at forming a criteria of how to really weigh in what lights could be turned on or turned off. And this light is high, and the properties on the other side of the street are lower as well. And so my neighbor Mary and myself and baby Karen, especially all over on this side of the street, are just really hit hard by this light. There's no hood that brings the light downward, it goes forward. It doesn't come backwards as much. So there needs to be a continuation to improve the dark night initiative from here now. We've taken a good step forward. And I would like to hope that we take some more steps forward to bring the illumination down towards the street more. Lowering some lights would be a huge benefit. And a little better hooding to improve the impact so that the light pollution doesn't hit in people's yards so much. I think that could be achieved in the future. So as far as the concern of the railroad, it's not been on in 10 years that I've been there. And in my opinion, it's actually an inhibitor, because when you put the light in there, then you don't see the light coming from the dark with the train coming through as well, because the light's interfering with your ability to see the train coming.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? All right, having can we have a motion? A motion?
I'd like to move that we adopt the checklist and public works director, police chief. I think that any Dark Sky trustee representative would be needing town administrator to form this committee to use this checklist, serve on those 3 lights, and to come back with letting the board know our decisions by the next meeting.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second? Oh my God.
We have to wait until the next board meeting. Is there a way to hurry that up?
Well, that would just be reporting back to the board. If the school reaches a consensus on those lights, we just go ahead and get them turned off.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I want to clarify one thing. It says if a majority consensus is reached, and I want the word majority stricken. Because in other words, if one of the people on there does not agree with the decision, it can come back to the board.
But majority is most, not all.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I want a consensus 100% that everyone agrees that, yeah, those should get turned off, and if not, we go to the board.
Okay, yeah. So you want to amend your motion?
I'll make the strike the word majority from the last sentence in the decision-making process.
Okay, we have a second on that. Second. Discussion on that. Yes, Michelle.
concern is that I feel like this was a great starting point, but as issues come up with the lights, it may be an iterative process with this checklist, and there might be very minor changes that staff needs to make sure that it's functional for the needs that come up. And I feel like this is a staff-driven process, and it's not a process that the board necessarily needs to review every single time a minor change happens. So I wonder if we should include that in the motion, that we're authorizing staff to make minor adjustments to this going forward.
Okay, well, we have an amendment to the first motion, which is to strike the word majority. Then we can do another amendment. So, let's go ahead and vote on the strike the majority word from the motion, from the document. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so we have a motion to accept the checklist with the word majority taken out. Now, would you like to amend that, Michelle?
I guess my question is whether we need an amendment for staff to feel comfortable making minor adjustments to the checklist as they go along.
My concern would be long-term different opinions of what minor adjustment would mean. So I would think that if the board is going to vote to approve a spelled out checklist, but are going to allow adjustments, that my preference would be that there was a motion stating that. Not, it doesn't necessarily have to be an amendment, it could be a separate motion, but I would think so.
Structure is good.
So I think the group this committee, this group, just when they realize that maybe there's a better way to do this, just suggest that to the board or even to the staff. Yeah, I see no reason why this couldn't come back to the board again if they want to make changes to it. All we're doing is taking the current checklist and approving it, and then as time goes by, I'm sure they could bring it back to the board to make whatever adjustments they felt necessary.
Okay, I have no motion to make.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. All right, on to the town administrator's 3-month evaluation.
What we have so far is a, thank you, Mr. President, that has to be recognized. I'm sorry. We've done a evaluation, it's approved in a public meeting, 2 months ago. There's a 3 and 6 month evaluation by town administrator. Each trustee has been asked to, provide input using that form. We public comments about the post of the town administrator, and we'll take that into account. Our plan is to distribute trustee evaluations as a work product to all the trustees. We've done that. We will schedule an executive session for the next meeting to discuss the evaluation and come out in the public meeting with any decisions.
Do you still want me to summarize this?
I don't think it's necessary. I think the summary is when we have the executive session, we have the supervisor and the town administrator, and see what the best course of action is for you to summarize that when we come up with a review that we go in the file, and that's the public record.
Okay, so it's not to be me to review it and give it back to the board at the next meeting? It sounds like that's exactly what I want to do. Make a recommendation based on, all right,
I think the discussion is really important in the executive session. The last we went through with the previous town administrator was very robust. And I think we all learned a lot from each other about how we look at the position, how we look at performance, and we get feedback from the manager. So I looked for that session.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what is public information would be the final evaluation. That is work product and confidential right now, is how individual trustees have rated the town administrator, and so I really want people to be very careful about not disclosing that now, because it is a work product and it's confidential, and I think we need time to discuss it and combine it.
Okay. So I have received via email one comment from the public about green. Would you like me to share? Okay. This was from Eagle Eye, and didn't say who it was from. It just said, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate how informative Korean is through the town's Facebook page. And then there was a letter placed from Robert Long that was sent to Corinne that she has in her file, but I'm sure she would be happy to share it with the rest of the board. Okay, so I'm assuming our process is that we will have an executive session next time to review this and come up with a formal document.
Another thing that's very important to post on the website or on Facebook that citizens of the government should want to directly to the mayor.
Yeah, I believe that is what is on the website.
It's on Facebook. I have not put anything on the website, but I can if you would like me to. I can do that.
Okay. So listen, we don't need any. This is just a process. All right, so let's move on with the consent agenda. All we have is the regular minutes from 8/11/2020. Can I get well, I have one amendment to make to that. I wanted to point out that the town's retreat, the board retreat, was not recorded correctly in the minutes, in case you ran across that. Mr. Thoreau gave that. It is for October 7th. The hours are from 2:30 to 4 will be the board only. And then from 4 to 5:30 it will be the board and staff. So, October 2nd from 2:30 to 5:30. All right, aside from that, can we get a motion to approve the consent? This is very minor, but on page 69, it says that, where did it go? Where did that go? One of you suggested that, this is Rob O'Donnell. He calls him Robo, he goes by Robo. His name is Rob O'Donnell. R-O-B-O-D-O-N-N-E-L-L, just for the record. Okay. Now can we get a motion to accept the consent agenda? As amended.
Accept the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Bill, that way you can. All right, motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, all in favor? Opposed? All right, that motion carries. Next up is the mayor's report. The mayor would like to report on, let me make sure I get the right thing here. Okay, I am currently working with the Delta Department of Public Health and Environment to do a county-wide recognition of businesses who are complying with governor's orders. And it's going to be quite a bit more complicated than what we're doing here. It has a checklist and anonymous waiters and all kinds, and there's going to be prizes involved in this too, so that businesses who do get recognized not only get something to put up in their windows, but also can get some sort of prize from all of this. So it's a work in progress. I'm not sure we'll be done by the 1st of October, but we're plunging ahead. And that's all I have. Committee reports, finance and personnel.
You heard from us about the evaluation. We're going to be reviewing checks tomorrow at 2:30. Anyone is invited.
Okay, Governor Jerry Phillips.
Our last meeting was held Wednesday, August 26th. We had no one from the public attend. It was about a private meeting, as Police Chief Ferguson and Town Administrator Ferguson was not able to attend. But we did discuss future budget items with Cindy, and Basically discussed, back of the badge, if that passes, what, Chief O'Neill or Ferguson would do with that information. And then just discuss the logistics of the Let's Talk building inspection meeting, which was held right after that. Our next meeting is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. The public is welcome. Michelle, is there anything else?
No, I think that was a great summary of our main meeting. I would add that the Let's Talk session for building inspection was well attended. We received lots of valuable feedback. We had put together both a long version of our notes from that meeting and a shorter list of possible considerations for the board, and we'd like to have that before the board for the next meeting for consideration.
Great. Wonderful, thank you. All right, public works, utilities, facilities.
We don't have anything to report, we haven't done that this month.
Okay. All right, space creators still defunct, tree board. Yeah, the tree board met, I don't remember what day, about a week ago. And their next meeting, they're going to try and have regular meetings somewhere now. The first Wednesday of the month, the next meeting is Wednesday, October 6th at 5 o'clock, tentatively in Park. The tree board is contacting, the tree board representative will be contacting county and elementary school with the possibility of 2 more tree plantings this fall. The tree that was planted on Evergreen was in honor of a deceased parent of a student or students at PES, and these two trees would also be planted in honor of 2 other parents who have passed away. The main topic of the meeting was the budget, and oddly enough, the board came up with just the exact amount that they have been budgeted in the past, so hopefully they'll be happy with the budget amount. So that's all. Okay, thank you everyone. All right, unless there is nothing else, then I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for your participation. Yes, well, you'll be sworn.